What's up, everybody? Today we're going to go through my updated pros and cons of living in Potomac, Maryland. I grew up in Potomac. I even went to high school here, but then I left, went to college, and traveled around a bit. But I've been back 18 years. So stay tuned till the end because I'm going to tell you my absolute favorite thing about being back and living in Potomac, Maryland. So let's dive right in. So my first pro about living here is that it's just so beautiful. It really is. Potomac is known for its picturesque landscapes, large green lush yards, and elegant homes. Driving around Potomac makes for a great afternoon. You just get to drive by all these gorgeous large homes, and they're really incredible yards. It really is one of the most beautiful places to live. So that's my first pro. Let's move on to my second. My next pro has to do with the location. Potomac is located right outside of Washington, D.C. and right across the river from Virginia, so you have easy access to both. You're also only 15 minutes from Bethesda or Rockville, so you can take advantage of all the job opportunities, entertainment options, and cultural activities of all of these places. Let's move on to schools, because a lot of my clients move to Potomac, Maryland for our public and private schools, because Potomac schools are always very highly rated. Winston Churchill High School, which is the high school that most of Potomac goes to, has an A+ rating from niche.com, and gradeschools.org gives Churchill a 9 out of 10 for college readiness. You also have Bullis, St. Andrews, the McLean School, and some other private schools if you prefer that choice. But I have to say, it is nice to know that you do have the choice of public or private because they're both so very highly rated. Now, schools are a very personal preference, and as realtors, we can't really say too much about them, which is why I give you those websites to check out. So if you are thinking about moving to Potomac, definitely check out Churchill and the other schools that go to Churchill and see if they're a great fit for you and your family. Moving on to pro number 4, which has to do with sports. To piggyback off of schools, sports in Potomac are really strong. Whether you're into lacrosse or soccer or field hockey or football or really any sport, you'll be able to find it here in Potomac. You can pretty much guarantee there will be some sporting event on the weekends. So whether you prefer to play or just watch them, there's just always something to do. Like I said, I grew up here and I remember all those Friday night football games at Churchill. They were just so much fun. And now that my kids are in high school, I actually still go to the football games because we just have a blast. It's just a real sense of community when you combine the schools and the sports and all the different families. So sports is my next pro. And by the way, if you're wondering what professional sports teams we follow here in Potomac, we tend to follow the Washington teams rather than the Baltimore or other Maryland teams. So you're gonna see us rooting for the Caps and the Nats and the Commanders. And we'll just follow all those Washington, D.C. teams. So you got a lot to choose from here in Potomac. Hey, but if sports isn't your thing, got you covered. Our next pro has to do with art. Here in Potomac, we have the Glenstone Museum, which is an incredible museum that integrates art, architecture, and nature into a beautiful, serene environment. They have these outdoor sculptures throughout the grounds that are like nothing I've ever seen. So definitely check them out if you happen to be visiting or even if you already live here in Potomac. They also offer different exhibits all year around, so definitely check them out as well. And if that isn't enough, you can just go 15 minutes to North Bethesda to Strathmore, where they have tons of different art galleries and exhibits all year round. And like I said, you're only about 20 minutes outside of Washington, D.C., so you have access to all of the Smithsonian museums, including the Air and Space and the National Zoo, which, by the way, are all free, but you do have to pay for parking, so just be aware of that. But still, you have access to so many different art and cultural scenes and events, so if you're into art, we definitely have you covered here in Potomac. So my next pro has to do with if you want to live near a really big, vibrant city, but you want that small town feel, well, that's what I think you'll find here in Potomac. Even with the affluence that does come with living in Potomac, you still have a small town feel. Our Mecca shopping center is Potomac Village, where you'll find the big grocery stores, family-owned hardware store, and 2 gourmet little grocery stores, and a couple bars and restaurants and gas stations. Basically everything you need right here in Potomac Village. You even have Hunter's Inn, which is a local joint that's been around since 19 1978 that my mom still goes to, by the way, for happy hour. They have a really good happy hour. And their fries are really good too, especially when you go to that happy hour, because you're bound to run into someone you know. My next pro about living here has to do with parks and recreation. We have some amazing parks here in Potomac. My favorite is Great Falls National Park and the Billy Goat Trail, where you can hike on rocks or walk through trails and see stunning views of the Potomac River. You can even see Virginia across the way. It's so much fun. I tend to go on the more calm one with my dog, but there are more rigorous hikes if you really want to work out. If you're not into that, then check out Cabin John Regional Park, where you have hiking and biking trails, huge playgrounds and picnic areas. They even have their own ice skating rink. You also can find tennis courts nearby, so if you're into tennis, we got that too. There's also tons of smaller local parks here in Potomac, like Hadley's Park or Seven Lofts Park. I can't name them all, but if you're into parks and outdoor activities, you have a plethora of parks to choose from. So my next pro has to do with land and lot size. If you're looking for more land with your house, Potomac is a great choice compared to Bethesda or Chevy Chase or Kensington. The lots tend to be bigger in Potomac. It used to be horse country, so all the lots used to be 2 acres. It's not horse country anymore, and there's definitely smaller lots, but if you are looking for more land or you're looking for a house with a pool, Potomac is going to be a better choice for you than, like I said, Bethesda or Chevy Chase or Kensington. Now don't get me wrong, you can find bigger lots and a pool in your backyard in the other places I mentioned, but you will get more for your money in Potomac than closer in like Bethesda or Chevy Chase. So if it's important to you and you definitely want that 2-car garage and a big backyard, choose Potomac. Now if you can't tell, I absolutely love Potomac, so I could go on, but this video would then definitely be too long. So I'll give you one more pro and then we'll get to some of the cons. So my last pro has to do with the weather, because here in Potomac, Maryland, we experience all 4 seasons. And when you have such a beautiful place to live, in the fall, when the leaves change, it is simply breathtaking. And then you have the spring with all the different azaleas blooming, the bright colors everywhere you look. It's stunning. And don't forget about those cherry blossom trees, because there's many of them here in Potomac. In the winter, we do get some snow. It's not enough to be like crazy blizzard, at least not always. Once in a while we'll have a deep snow, but usually it's just enough to be really pretty outside and be able to have that glass of hot chocolate and watch all the kids play. Now, I have more to say about later in the con, but just remember, it's really pretty. And the summers, well, the summers do get hot, and I'm going to talk about those more later as well, but you do get all 4 seasons. Now, let's go to the con. So the first con about living in Potomac is that it is really expensive. Bestplaces.net gives it an overall score of 192 compared to the US average of 100. And when you look at housing, well then bestplaces.net gives it a score of 371 compared to the US average of 100. So it is expensive to live in Potomac, and real estate is very expensive in Potomac. There's no other way to say it. It's gonna cost you a lot of money to live here. My next con is that in Potomac, there is no metro. It just doesn't exist. You got a metro stop in Rockville, and you've got one in Bethesda. You even have one out in Gaithersburg, but you do not have a metro stop in Potomac. So if you're looking to live near a metro stop, Potomac is not going to be the choice for you. Now, it's not that big a deal because you do have the Rockville metro stop, which is about 15 minutes away, depending on where you live in Potomac. You could also be possibly closer to the North Bethesda metro stop or even the Bethesda metro. Neither are going to be that far away, but when people want to live near metro, they usually don't want to drive 15 or 20 minutes to get there. So I did have to bring it up. But it does lead me to my next con, which is your commute into DC. It's not going to be great. Here in Potomac, here in Maryland, we have a traffic problem. We have a lot of people in a small state, and traffic can get pretty bad. So if you are commuting into the city, like I said, you're not that far away, but it could take you some time if you are driving during rush hour. It's just farther out than Bethesda or Chevy Chase. So it is something to consider if you do want that big backyard and 2-car garage and you want all the land and you want to live in Potomac. Your commute will be a little longer. This is what it is. So I alluded to my next con when I was talking about my last pro, meaning the weather, and that is because the summers here, well, they're pretty bad in my opinion. They're very hot, they're very humid, and for about 6 weeks of the summer, you'll hear the newscasters say, it's gonna be 95, but it feels like 107, and it does. It's super hot, it's super humid. So if you're not into that, which obviously I'm not, just have to be aware of it. Now, a lot of us tend to leave Potomac in the summer and go to the Eastern Shore or Ocean City, or in my case, I prefer the beaches of Delaware, Rehoboth Beach, just to get out of the heat and humidity. So there's that. Also, when it comes to the winter, if they think it's gonna snow, now mind you, I said if they think. If it snows, they definitely will do this, but even if they think it's gonna snow, they will most likely delay school or cancel it. So just be aware of that, especially if you're moving here from a cold state and you're used to a lot of snow. You're gonna be really surprised, and it can be pretty annoying, in my opinion, because you think it's not really snowing that bad, and now I have to stay home from work to take care of my kids. So it's just something to be aware of here in Potomac, or in fact in Montgomery County to be exact, that if they think the weather is going to be bad, snowy or icy, they will most likely delay or cancel school. My next pro is that although we do have Potomac Village, which does have some super cute restaurants and bars, there isn't a lot to do as far as dining and entertainment. Now, like I said, it's only 15 minutes to get into Bethesda, which has many restaurants, and another 10 minutes after that to get into DC, where you have a plethora of choices. Or you can go north into Gaithersburg and the Kentlands, where you have a lot of super cute restaurants. But if you just want to stay to Potomac, there's not that many choices, so I did want to point that out. Okay, so just a couple more cons, and then I'm going to get to my favorite thing about living here. So in the spring, I just want you to be aware that the allergies can get pretty bad, especially pollen. I mean, literally, you can walk around and see the pollen all over your car and all over your deck in the back, and it's kind of gross and it really bothers me. But just be prepared if you do have allergies, especially pollen, that it can get pretty bad here. So my final con has to do with upkeep. With those large, beautiful lots does come a lot of maintenance. And I only bring this up because I have had clients move here from places like Boston or Chicago, and they get very enamored by Potomac and the big lots and the big backyards. And then I get a phone call about a month later saying, help, I need help. How do I mow the lawn and trim the brushes, all this stuff. So I will tell you what I tell them. If you want to call me and get some names of different contractors, I'm happy to help you. I have plenty of people that will come and do that for you. Or if you want to do what I do, which brings me to my favorite thing about living here, is use your neighborhood, use your community. Like I said, I grew up here and now I'm raising 2 kids here who are now teenagers. And my favorite thing about living here is the sense of community. You really do feel it. If you need something, if you need your lawn mowed, or you need help with shoveling snow, or whatever it may be, I can always look to one of my neighbors, look on our listserv, talk to somebody else. I feel like people are always willing to help. Now, I know that's not in every situation, but I do have a lot of experience living here, and I have to say, in my experience, both as a child and as a parent, I just love that we all seem to really want to help each other. So if you are looking for a strong sense of community and really nice neighbors, Potomac may be a great choice for you. So that about wraps up my updated pros and cons of living in Potomac, Maryland. I do have other videos on Potomac, 7 things I love or avoid Potomac, which kind of delineates the pros from the cons, and I've added a few. Or I have Potomac versus Bethesda, so definitely check them out. And if you're thinking about moving to Potomac or any place in Montgomery County, Maryland, or DC, or Northern Virginia, and you would like our help, just send us an email. We'll set up a Zoom. We'll get you started. We've helped many people move here from out of state or within the state, and we're really happy to do that for you. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Bye.